Welcome back to the Second and Short podcast where the entire playbook is open. I'm Josiah.
I'm Jacob.
And I'm Hayden.
And for those of you who like to listen to audio only, the link for the Spotify will be in the description.
Yeah, so the playbook was really open last week. We tried calling a trick play, doing a virtual episode.
And around in a Matt Canada offense.
Yeah, in a Matt Canada offense, I think is key. It did not go so well. That is why there was no episode last week. I think we're closing in on 50 episodes. I think this is episode 48 or 49. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be hitting that 50 benchmark. We are planning to do a virtual episode eventually. For you guys, virtual doesn't really mean anything. For you guys, it's always virtual, but a different setup. Not all of us in one place live. Just making sure that we have complete versatility to continue to give you the content that you love more than anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Dang. Christian was bummed.
Yeah.
Christian was like, all right, next week is like the only week that I'm going to be able to do it actually. So, sorry, Christian. Guess.
Oh, that was he's saying today was.
Yeah, today would have been the only one. So,
Thank you for your service, Christian.
R.I.P.
Yep.
all right, we got to quit with the RIP though. Not,
I've never said R.I.P.
Okay.
Christian. I've never said that. Let me go on record.
I've also never said R.I.P. Christian. I've just
Oh,
said R.I.P.
that's true.
That-
That's true.
Good point, Nichols. Good point.
Speaking of Rip, did you guys see that? So you know Andrew Van Ginkel?
Yeah.
He named his son Ripkin, so his name is Rip Van Ginkel, which is wild. That's so
Rip.
That's weird.
That is weird.
That kid's going to be a stud wrestler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. State champion. I don't know where they live, whether
Was
it's
Andrew a state champion wrestler? He just
Not
gives
that
up
I
the
know
wrestling
of.
vibes.
Yeah, I mean-
he definitely does.
Yeah, just that old school linebacker. The kid's going to have a bowl cut probably if he doesn't have the flow and just be an absolute animal on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
Josie, I had you come up with the game plan for today's episode, and I like how you said we're through the first quarter-ish of the season because it used to be super clean.
Yeah.
The NFL regular season was split into fourths, and the first 4 games, the first 25% of the season, and then so on to 50 and 75. Now that we have that 17th regular season game, there's not really a clear quarter way through the season. For the sake of our purpose, though, we're going to recap some of what we have seen through the first almost quarter of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the reasons I put the almost. The other reason was because if we get to week 5, then we're too far. Because it's like, this is like the weird spot between the two where like, if we wait until after week 5, then it's like we're having 20 weeks, but we're not. So it's like, there's no happy medium when you have 18 full weeks because you got to include those buys in there too. It's like, there's no real happy medium, but this is about where people would start to panic.
Approximately 2:22 p.m. Eastern time of the games on Sunday will be a quarter of the way
There we
through
go.
season. We'll go with that.
Yeah, let's stop the episode and start filming during the middle of those games.
Okay,
Yeah.
live stream.
Live stream.
Live stream. Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. So, 3 main topics that we really want to talk about today. The first one, and we'll just dive right into that one, biggest surprise. So, for that one specifically, I wanted to focus on like one good one and one bad one, or one positive and one negative if you want to go from that perspective. Now that we're a quarter of the way through the season, just something that like you didn't expect. So, Naples, you want to go first?
How about Jaden Daniels being a guy?
Yeah.
Talk about completing like 80-something% of his passes, like back to, not last week, although they scored 42 points, but the 2 previous games scoring on every possession of each game, which has like only happened a handful of times ever.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like to do it twice in 2 weeks, like as a rookie's insane. And like what Dan Quinn's done with that defense too, like holding the Cardinals to like, what was it, like 14 points, 10 points. They didn't score much. Like,
yeah, it wasn't a lot.
like-
Which was so surprising that they
Yeah.
had an entire second half and just didn't do anything.
yeah. Like, so Jaden Daniels on the Commanders being a legit squad and contending for that division, I think is probably the biggest surprise. Like, we knew they were like one of those wild card, like frisky teams, but like to be thinking to ourselves, like, I probably like them the best to win that division, like, is like a big surprise for me.
Well, yeah, it's just so wild. Like you touched on it a little bit there. It's like they were the team that had the second overall pick. Like it's not like they traded it away or whatever it was. Like they had the second overall pick. They were the second worst team in football last year.
Yeah.
And then they go out and they get a new head coach, a defensive head coach, and then they go out and they get the quarterback that, we'll say this again, we've said this multiple times on the podcast, the second overall pick is almost always better than the first overall pick.
Mhm.
At least in recent history, it seems like it's that way every single time.
Yeah.
And there were obviously the scouts and pundits that were saying that Caleb Williams was the generational talent. I know Eli loves that term, but there were also some people out there in the NFL that truly thought Jaden Daniels was the number one quarterback. We remember that started to become a little bit more heavy in the talks once we hit April, but it was also widely recognized, whichever one you preferred, whether it was Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, the other one would be the number one overall pick if they weren't in that same draft class. So both of these guys were viewed very highly. You mentioned the defensive-minded head coach. I am very against that. I've been outspoken. When you get a young talent at quarterback, you want an offensive-minded head coach.
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to have that Sean Payton, Drew Brees relationship. Because otherwise, Cliff Kingsbury been in his bag right now calling just great plays for Washington. Guess what? He's probably going to become a head coach again in the next couple of years. So what's your reward for hiring a great offensive-minded offensive coordinator? I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of a given.
Yeah.
But you're going to let him move on, and then all of a sudden you have to start fresh with Jaden Daniels and a new guy.
Yeah, which is wild. And also, we need to at least mention this, like, probably is one of the worst offensive lines in football. Still, I mean,
They're
you
better.
look-
They're better.
They're a little better, but at the same time, they gave up the most sacks in NFL history last year.
Yeah, but look at how they're running the ball this year.
Like,
Jeremy
yeah.
McNichols
B-Rob,
averaged 8
yeah.
yards per carry this past year.
B-Rob and
Yeah,
Nichols look good.
They've been playing a lot better than they did last year, but it's not like they magically overnight just started
Yeah.
actually studying or
Yeah.
actually
They're
taking
not.
PEDs
They're
or
not the
something
Lions.
like that. Like,
They're not the
yeah.
Lions up
Oh,
front.
yeah. So you want to go next?
Yeah, and we're starting off with a positive one. So I'm going to do kind of the theme of the NFL season so far in resurgent quarterbacks, more specifically quarterbacks from that 2018 draft class, obviously talking about Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. And I do want to hit it with a caveat because me and a lot of people identified that this could be the case. Baker Mayfield, at this point, you might not be as high on him as me, but most people would widely say that he's a franchise quarterback. He's a top half of the league QB. I think that he's a little bit better than that. I think he's that top 10 range. And then Sam Darnold is the other one that I'm referring to. But once again, I'm not going to pat myself too much on the back for calling that one because a lot of people recognized all of a sudden you have Justin Jefferson, you have TJ Hawkinson eventually, you have Aaron Jones, you have a couple of good tackles. And then, going back to my offensive-minded head coach thing, you have Kevin O'Connell back there calling plays, one of the best play callers in the league. But we didn't expect Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield to look this good. Everyone might have thought that they were going to be good this year, or at least above average, but they have been stellar. In my eyes, they're the top 3 for MVP right now. It's those two and Josh Allen, in really any order. I thought that they were going to be good. I thought Baker Mayfield was going to be another fringe Pro Bowler, have the Bucs competitive. I thought Sam Darnold would do something similar, have good stats with Kevin O'Connell and company. I didn't expect them to be maybe the top 2 in the MVP race coming out of this quarter of a way through the season. So they're my pleasant surprise.
Yeah, he's looked so sharp, dude. Like, I mean, both of them have to be honest with you. Like, we've seen Baker play almost to this level. Like, yes, he wasn't this last year, but yeah, last year was a really good season. We've never seen Sam Darnold have a good season. Sam Darnold is playing head and shoulders better than he ever has, and it's like, and a negative, like, you want to be like, hey, drug test that guy. But on the other side of it, it's like, okay, maybe he's in a really good system with a really good offensive coordinator and maybe the best weapons in the league, and they don't even have their top tier tight end.
Yeah.
Who's a top 3 tight end in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean,
like, and he's potentially coming back in 2-3 weeks, like, and they might only get better from that point. Aaron Jones is running the ball, like,
he's really good.
Jordan Addison had 2 touchdowns on Sunday in his first game back, something like that. Like, it's like, where do the options end in Minnesota's offense?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, like, you talk about some of the best weapons in the league. Jordan Addison comes back, and it's, like, immediate impact. Like, they just, like, open their offense up even more, and it's, like, Sammy Sunshine slinging it all around the field. And, like, their defense looks solid, too. Like, it's... And the Vikings over the past few years, back before Who was the Mike Zimmer was there. Like, he had a couple good years defense. I know, like, the last year or two there, like, their defense really started to decline. But now it looks like their defense is somewhere around that middle of the pack. And, like, I don't know, man. They gave the Packers a lot of problems. I know the score, like, it was obviously, like, a closer game. But, like, according to the score, but, like, they gave them problems all day.
Oh, yeah. And this is probably the best we've seen their defense play since they had Xavier Rhodes and Everson Griffin.
Yeah.
Since
peak
that
Mike
point-
Zimmer era.
Yeah.
Anthony Barr. Josie, what jersey are you wearing? What team?
I am wearing a Panthers jersey, and it is Mr. Luke Kuechly, future Hall of Famer.
Shout out to Luke Kuechly. Obviously a Hall of Famer, by the way. Quick shout out. We're doing a lot of Hall of Fame stuff on TikTok right now. Go check that out. It's going to be linked in the caption. But Josie, Luke Kuechly, yes, a Hall of Famer. But like I said, I want to focus on the Panthers. The Panthers had Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold on their roster. Both guys that I just said are probably top 2 in the MVP race right now. Is David Tepper the worst owner in pro sports?
Could be.
Ooh,
There's
pro
some heavy
sports.
competition. In the NFL, I think right now
Owns
it's
the
a given.
Pirates.
I was going to say the Pirates owner's been going through it right now.
Dude, who is the, I don't know, I don't remember his name. I'm not like super into baseball, but this dude was like 4 bases away from a big bonus, and they just like cut him or traded him.
Yeah, I think that was the Pirates.
Yeah, that was the Pirates.
Rudy Tellez, I believe. So, I don't know, just someone to float out there. I talked to Eli about it, and he said it's not apples to oranges. Like, the Panthers owner, David Tepper, is dysfunctional on the field. He has a quick temper, no patience, which is pretty common for rich people. The Pirates owner, though, is just straight up not trying to win.
No.
David Tepper's trying to win. He just sucks at it and makes a lot of wrong decisions and is temperamental. The Pirates owner just truly does not care. It is simply the bottom line.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's like, unless the owner intentionally puts themselves into the spotlight like a Jerry Jones, you typically don't hear a lot about the owners unless their seat is hot, which the owner's seat can't really be hot, but like they can kind of be forced out. Dan Snyder. I just feel like the way that David Tepper's career, if you want to call it that, is moving towards is more towards the Dan Snyder than somebody else, where like he's potentially going to be out of there pretty soon, like for whatever that means. Like, I mean, think back to 4 or 5 years ago, people were talking about, I think it was like Jay-Z and Steph Curry were going to buy the
let's
Panthers.
not talk about Jay-Z. There's some
Listen,
stuff in the news.
I didn't say anything that supported him.
Okay.
I'm just saying the facts that he was. That there were rumors that him and Steph Curry were gonna buy the Panthers or something like that. It's like, I feel like of the owners, the next one on the out is David Tepper.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Jed York said when they were going through all that dysfunction post Jim Harbaugh, you can't fire the owner, which is true because Dan Snyder is the most recent one that has been outed, and he had to do a lot of stuff to get outed. Before that, funny enough, the reason why the Panthers were for sale, Jerry Richardson, also had to do a lot of stuff and have a lot of stuff come to light. I also want to talk about what you said about Jerry Jones and how the light shines on him. Say what you want about Jerry Jones, I kind of respect it because all these owners are meddling. They're nonstop. They're rich people. They want what they want, and they expect to get what they
You're
want.
playing with their money. That's what it boils down to. Like, not in a bad way, but like the team is funded by their money.
Yeah.
And so when it boils down to it, like when you make moves and you spend money, you're spending their money.
And I know it's backfired on the Cowboys and Cowboys fans of recent, but Jerry Jones just making himself general manager, I kind of respect it. Because guess what? David Tepper wanted to draft Bryce Young, Josh McCown, Thomas Brown, Frank Reich. All those guys wanted CJ Stroud, supposedly. But David Tepper writes the checks, so you know what? We're going to draft Bryce Young. And then guess what? All those guys don't even make it a year.
No.
David Tepper didn't get fired. All those guys got fired, despite supposedly advising him to do the opposite of what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It is interesting. I kind of respect it about Jerry that he's like, yeah, you know what? I make mistakes. Like he was talking about recently. I didn't sign Derrick Henry. I didn't draft Randy Moss. Like, It's not a good thing necessarily, but at least he owns it more than the other owners who are going to hide behind a general manager.
Yeah. No, I don't have an issue with Jerry Jones necessarily. I just think that I saw something resurface recently that he said that, like, the fans don't come to watch the players, they come because he's the superstar or something like that. I'm like, that's delusional, dude. That is delusional.
He is like a carnival person.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, which he has helped grow the NFL maybe more than anybody because he is so good at it. He's good at staying in the headlines. It's not... You would say stuff about CeeDee Lamb, the first preseason game where the Cowboys aren't playing. All of a sudden, we're talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
He is a genius. He's a marketing genius. I just remembered another example of an owner meddling. It's with my friend Naples' team. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry getting stuck with Deshaun Watson. And guess what? They might end up getting fired because of it. Not Jimmy Haslam, but Jimmy Haslam wanted Deshaun Watson, who Naples, he's not washed, right?
He's not. I don't think so. I wouldn't say washed.
What would you say?
Say he's approaching peak form. He's not there yet.
Peak that he had in Houston or peak of his career? Because the peak of his career technically would be higher than it was in Houston.
Is it? I
That's
don't
what I'm
think
saying.
so.
It's like that's the question: was his peak in Houston? Will he ever reach that peak again?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I think we've.
You're
got,
joking, right?
No,
This is a bit.
It's not a bit.
You can't watch him right now and say, yeah, he's going to turn it on.
He played good last game. Like, he was making a lot of throws that you're like, okay, wow, there's like 4 people that can make that throw.
He did stand in the pocket well. This week. I didn't
Yeah.
watch the game, but I did see some highlights where like he stood in the pocket well. I don't think I'm to the point that you are where I think he's returning to there, but like I did see something from him that I didn't see in the past, and that was it didn't look like he was trying to avoid injury at all.
Yeah.
Last.
And
I
I think
feel like that's been one of his biggest
Yeah.
issues is
Yeah.
he's so concerned with not getting injured,
yeah,
as you should be.
yeah.
But like it's kind of
For sure.
hampered his game a bit.
And I think he's kind of gotten a little bit of that like juice and like confidence back, like that competitiveness, like on the field. Like I know he was going back and forth with a little bit with his old like Clemson teammate Christian Wilkins, and like just like him like getting fired up, like yelling at some of the O linemen. Like seeing that gives me a lot of confidence that like although the Browns are 1-3, we can turn it around. We play a lot of really good teams coming up. So, like, if you're going to be one of the better teams in the league, you have to beat some of the better teams, but I think we're capable.
I was going to say, all that being said, Nick Chubb is supposedly practicing this week.
He's not playing.
When he is back, the offense still runs through Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Like, regardless
Hopefully.
of who's on the field, regardless if Deshaun is approaching his peak, whatever, the offense runs through
Yeah.
Nick Chubb.
Hopefully it will. We need to start running the ball.
I wholeheartedly agree.
We need to be a run-first team.
As someone who, in a dynasty league, has Jerome Ford, I am yelling at the Browns, run the football.
Dude, it is so aggravating to call, like, 2 passes out of 3 downs and go 3 and out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we need to be running the ball, like...
And Amari Cooper might be out of there. I'm not trying to get into speculations, but, like,
If
people are talking about him getting
Hey,
traded
if
here
you
pretty
remember
soon.
my one like in mid-season trade prediction for like on the pod was Amari Cooper out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Back to Dallas.
It's a much better take than Deshaun Watson hasn't reached his peak
All right,
yet.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go into mine now. So the first one, I'm just gonna I'm gonna cruise over this one because it is a very biased surprise, and it's how slow the rest of the AFC North has started this season.
Yeah.
Nobody expected the best division in football for 2 of the teams to be 1-3.
Yeah.
One of them to be a
We
500.
were talking about
and the
positive
Steelers.
surprises, and you just throw in a negative.
It's just positive for the Steelers. It's a positive
Fair,
for the
fair,
Steelers.
fair
That's
enough.
why it's biased.
Fair enough.
It's negative for the rest of the league and for the AFC North, but the Steelers, it's a positive one.
Okay.
The Steelers would be at the top of the division after 4 weeks, a quarter of the way through the season, and for 2 of the teams in the best division of football to be 1-3. That was my biased one. My other one is, and this was on display very well on Monday night, so it kind of solidifies it even more. The Lions have another weapon, and his name is Jameson Williams.
Yes.
He was good last year.
back.
He is excellent this year. There's a chance that he's more of an offensive threat right now than Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the biggest offensive threats in all of football. So it's like you have 2 guys that are constant threats to either catch it on third down and take it for 15 yards or to take it 70 yards to the house. You look at the beginning of that second half last night, the Seattle Seahawks got the ball. They charged down the field, ground and pound, 12, 13 play drive, scored a touchdown. They're like, hey, maybe we can turn this thing around. One play, 70 yards to the house.
Yep.
One play. If I remember correctly, it was the very first play that the Lions had in the second half, 70 yards to the house. It's a killer. Like, to have a weapon like that alongside one of the better receivers in the league. Oh, did I mention that they have one of the better tight ends, one of the better young tight ends in the NFL as well? It's like, and they have two stud running backs.
And the best running back tandem.
And the best offensive line in the league. And a quarterback who went 18 for 18. And the only reason he didn't have a perfect passer rating is because he gave up a stupid safety at the end of the game. Like, a guy who went 18 for 18. And they weren't Dink and Doug's. Like, he had almost 300 yards passing.
Yeah.
Like, the Lions is like, show me the weakness on the team right now. It's the secondary, but still, like, on the offensive side of the ball, there are no weaknesses on the team.
Yeah, no, the Lions look really good.
Yeah. I mean, we were high on the Lions, I feel like, before the season, but even in our predictor, like, I think we only had them going, like, 12-5. Like, they could be 14-3.
Yeah.
They could probably be maybe even 15-2 at this point, but, like, they already have a loss, so it's tough to say that.
Yeah,
but,
that's a lot.
Yeah.
When you're going just predicting, it's hard to predict a team more than 12 wins, I think, just because, like, they're going to be the slip-ups. There's going to be the Raiders beating the Ravens like we saw in week 2. There's going to be those weird ones, but...
Oh, for sure.
You want to go with your other negative, I guess?
Yeah. Well, why don't you go? I don't have my friend.
I mean, there's a couple that come to mind of, like, surprising negatives. I'd say right now for me, it's probably the Jets offense. Like, they had one good game where they put it together, where it's like, and I think we're all, like, at least somewhat high on the Jets this year, or think that, like, with Aaron Rodgers, like, they were going to be, like, and not saying they still won't be. I still think that they can win that division and, like, will be there at the end of the year, but, like, there's no reason Denver should hold you to 9 points. And, like, that's with Denver not moving the ball at all. Like, they had negative passing yards through the first half, and we're not scoring touchdowns. Like, that's pretty alarming if I'm, like, on the Jets. And, like, Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers have not gotten on the same page yet. Like, they didn't really run the ball well last game. Like, the Jets' offense seems to be a pretty big problem right now. I mean, their defense still looks really good. But, like, their offense is not moving the ball, and it's, like, not where, like, they want to be. And it's hard to think they'll get there after last week and, like, the first couple weeks. I mean, they really only beat Tennessee well, but even then, like, that was a whole lot on the ground. It wasn't really anything, like, special like that Aaron Rodgers was doing. Like, he looked okay, but I would say that's the alarming team that's for my negative. Other than the Browns, of course, but, they're going to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, that's another team that we looked at. Yeah, the offensive line is not great, but, like, they have weapons. Like, they have... I mean, Tyler Conklin is no slouch at tight end, but he's not... I wouldn't say he's in that top-tier, upper echelon. But then you have Garrett Wilson, who everybody thinks is one of those 15 top 10 wide receivers in the league.
Mike Williams has looked solid, too.
Allen Lazard and Aaron Rodgers, they have chemistry, regardless of what position... You want to put him in wide receiver rankings.
Breece Hall and Braylon Allen.
Yeah, like there's weapons all over on the Jets team. They just haven't figured it out yet. So.
One of the teams that I was really high on during the offseason was the Jaguars. I went as far as to say that they were going to win the South, and Trevor Lawrence was a dark horse for MVP. I was wrong.
Are they 0-4 right now?
They are 0-4.
They're cooked.
I posted my power rankings. I believe I put them at 30 or 31.
Shedeur Sanders.
It's bad. Bill Belichick looms right now. Doug Peterson. If they would have gotten killed instead of playing a very competitive game and at times even outplaying the Texans this past week, I think we could be talking about Mike McCoy being the interim head coach of the Jaguars for week 5. And I love Doug Peterson, but it's just not working. Trevor Lawrence, this is the first year where, like, I changed my mind. I'm, like, all in on Trevor Lawrence. Eli and Christian can vouch for me. I thought that this guy was going to be the biggest bust coming out of Clemson, and then Took me a few years, but I came around. But I guess I shouldn't have, because it is atrocious right now. He is clearly unmotivated. Tank Bigsby has been outplaying Travis Etienne. Christian Kirk, we're talking about wide receivers on the move. He might be the most realistic wide receiver to be on the move, simply because the cap's not going to be that crazy, and he is in the slot. The slot's probably the most easy wide receiver to transition right away. My thoughts are getting fumbled right now because I'm just so caught off guard by how bad the Jags have been.
Yeah, I mean, they've been... and Brian Thomas has shown flashes, but I don't think
he's been good.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
he's
been
not
good.
stepped into that elevated like wide receiver one role that maybe we talked about him being in. He's played... He's had
He's
a
played
couple...
4 games. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
He's been
I'm
fine.
I'm not out on Brian Thomas. I'm just saying that like he's played like 1.5 decent games out of 4. And he is a rookie, so I'm
Yeah.
not like hating on him, I'm not dogging on him.
He's no Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison.
That's what I'm
but-
saying. It's like when you compare him to the other
Yet.
guys in the draft
Yet.
right now, like they
Yet.
Odunze hasn't done
Well,
He got-
Odunze
he
has
had
a
2
bum
catches.
quarterback right now.
2
so-
catches for touchdowns, and they're
And Keenan Allen hasn't even played the last
oh,
few
yeah.
weeks.
Yeah. Which I mean, I guess is as good a transition as any. I don't know if we were done talking about the Jags really, but I mean, talking about Rome Odunze.
Brian
is-
Thomas has been very good. By the way, he is at 17 for 275, averaging 16 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns.
What's his PFF ranking now?
Shut up.
But yeah, we were talking about the Bears a little bit, and Odunze there. It's like I think that one of the biggest surprises for me is everybody talked about how good of a fit or how good of a situation Caleb Williams is going to be coming into with the revamped weapons that they had and the offensive line and this and the defense, and they went out and got guys and blah blah blah. And like how slow of a start they've had to this season. Like I get that he's a rookie, but then you look at the opposite side of that as like Jaden Daniels went into a much worse situation and is doing a heck of a lot more with the less than Caleb Williams has.
Yeah.
I just think that it's, I mean, not to Eli's point necessarily, but like the first overall pick, first round quarterbacks, whatever, like regardless of where you're selected, like going to the right organization or the right fit is way more important than where you were selected.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have an update. So,
Yeah.
Brian Thomas, if he stays on this trajectory, would finish the season with 72 catches, 1,165 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
That's good. That's a really good stat line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm telling you, I wasn't hating on the guy.
It seemed a little
Yeah.
bit like, hey, just saying.
I did have another thought with that too. Oh, it's all the injuries. All the injuries this season, like maybe it's just recency bias, and like I feel like we say this every single year. I feel like there's been a ton of injuries this season.
No, there has been.
Like season ending, like playing.
Brian
with one on
Thomas
IR.
also has more yards this year than Marvin Harrison Jr. So.
Well, yeah, Marv's got.
Well, Marv
had
had-
start too.
Well, Marv just had week 1.
Nobody's
This is-
Malik Neighbors. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, when you're the only person on the offense, you get 20 targets a game. I mean, you're bound to get something, right?
I had in a dynasty rookie draft for this season in fantasy, I had picks 3 and 4, and I got Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels. And right now they look like absolute.
Am I in that dynasty with you?
No,
Okay,
no, it's a
good.
different one.
Thank
yeah,
God.
no. But no, that I cleared house last season because my team sucked, and I got a bunch of first round picks and a couple second round picks, and the players that I selected so far look like absolute studs. Like I got those 2 that I mentioned. I got Brian Thomas Jr. I got Lad McConkey. I'm trying to remember who else off the top of my head that I got, but like I got some absolute stallions, and so I'm sitting pretty in that league right now. But any other thoughts on the surprises? Anything else you guys want to throw out there?
I think the Texans' resiliency against the Jags, a division game. Like we know the Jags haven't played well, but like that's still a division opponent. Like you really don't blow out your division rivals that often. Like it's pretty rare. Like you usually play them pretty close.
Yeah.
But like just the resiliency after they got bopped last week to come back, play the Jags, and like lead a game-winning drive at the end. Like I thought that showed a lot about like the team, and I like just reassures that like I think the Texans are going to be competing for the 1 seed.
Well, that's 2 games now that they've had to come back in the second half because week 1 they were down pretty big in
Yeah.
the first half as well. So like I mean I think they're a young team that's still figuring it out and how to do it again this season with having almost too many mouths to feed at the receiver
Yeah.
situation. I think Dalton Schultz is kind of taking a back seat, which I mean, good for him to be that kind of leader. But like Dalton Schultz is having a tiny year compared to what he was last year. But like, I mean, Stephon Diggs, you have to feed that mouth.
Yeah.
Like
Nico Collins.
Nico Collins is the stud. Like he's the best. He might be the best player in that entire offense, and I include C.J. Stroud in that. Like, much as I love C.J. Stroud, Nico is a dog. One last surprise: the Philadelphia Eagles not being, 4-0 right now. We expected them to be 17-0 at the end of the season, and they're letting us down.
It's a disappointment. I don't know how surprising it is, but Dalton Schultz right now, 10 catches for 82 yards.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's not been great.
And 23 of those yards came on one catch.
23 on one catch, you said? Wow, that's wild.
He's along at 23. So.
All right, moving on to the next one that we had on there. We want to talk about one team that is struggling and what they need to do to turn it around. So, like this season, somebody who's struggling, they shouldn't be struggling, or maybe we expected them to struggle a little bit. What do they need to do to turn it around this season and make it a playoff team? Whatever. Take a team that's 1-3. Take it. You could do the Browns if you wanted. Like, say something that they need to do to turn it around.
I mean, that's where I'm gonna go. I gotta defend the boys. Gotta defend the squad. I mean, right now the Browns are not playing good football. We're not a good football team right now. And it's there's a lot of issues there. I mean, obviously injuries are a part of it, but everyone's got injuries. Like, you can't blame injuries on not winning football. The Rams have just as bad an O-line injuries and no receivers. They found a way to win last week. Like,
Browns had injuries last year and they found a way to win.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's never an excuse. But what we do have to do,
bench Deshaun Watson.
what we need to do is we need to run the ball a heck of a lot more. We need to get into these situations where teams aren't just sending 6 and we're getting just confused by, like, pressure. Like, Deshaun on certain, like, the O-line played okay last week. They didn't play great, but comparatively to weeks 1 through 3, it was way better. We need to start running the ball, and let me tell you about the coaching. We lead the league in penalties. We lead the league in dropped passes. We lead the league in pressures given up. We lead the league in sacks. Like, sacks given, anything that's negative, we're the best at it. That's terrible right now. Like, and not to mention penalties, but penalties at the worst times. Like, we get penalties that take away huge impact plays in the game. Like, look at the Giants game. We get a fumble, score a touchdown, we come back, we get an interception, penalty wipes it off, they go down and score. Like, imagine if we get that interception, we go up 14-0, we beat the Giants in that game. Raiders, last week, we have a chance to go down, like, we're down 4 points, Deshaun Watson hits Amari Cooper, he actually caught one, 80-yard touchdown. They call a holding penalty. That one maybe wasn't as, like, on Nick Harris, but, like, don't put yourself in a spot to get a holding call. Like, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot again and again and again, and it reminds me so much of those Hugh Jackson Browns and like, all the coaches before them where it was self-inflicted wounds that just pile on. Not to mention D-Hop missed an extra point. You hate to see it, but, I mean...
Do you have anything else? Talk your shit. That was awesome, dude.
It's just like, you need to be better. You need to get the guys motivated. Like, gotta do a better job. Like, we're the best first drive play calling, and then I don't know what happens. Yeah. Like, we've scored on our first drive every single game.
That's wild.
And we've blown leads to the Giants and the Raiders now.
Yeah.
The Panthers put up 30-plus points on the Raiders, and we scored one offensive touchdown.
That's tough.
Gotta be better.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said it all. Like, I don't think I didn't much need to add anything to that. It almost felt like a therapy session at one
That
point.
was awesome.
It was like,
That was so good.
We just gotta be better.
Yep.
My only notes are, 1, don't refer to Dustin Hopkins as D-Hop.
Nice.
We all know who D-Hop is.
So that's Nuke. No, that's
Oh,
the opposite.
okay.
I don't know why everybody stopped calling him Nuke. That's a good nickname.
And my other note, so funny. You guys have the reigning Coach of the Year in Kevin Stefanski and the reigning coordinator of the year in Jim Schwartz. And like I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like that's on coaching, all that. But just shows like how quickly things can turn.
Yeah.
So, and
I think a lot of it's Ken Dorsey though. Like like Stefanski calls the plays, but like we gotta have a better like offensive coordination there. Like our offense is not. It looks like a hot mess, and like the defense honestly has been fine. Like it's. I don't think anyone expected them to be the number one defense again, or like close to that, like top 7-ish probably. But like they've been fine. Like they've been okay. They've been good enough for us to win games if the offense plays to where it should be.
I have more faith. I don't want to say it that way. I agree with your take that the Browns can turn it around. If they do, though, Deshaun Watson's coming off the field. Because Joe Flacco was an objectively better quarterback than him last year. And guess what? Jameis Winston, if he ends up playing this year, is going to be objectively better than him also. I'm going to stick in the AFC North with my team that can turn it around. And the Jaguars were one team that I was hot on. The other team that I was maybe as hot as you can be on, I was glazing this team.
I think we
Like,
both had the
I was
Eagles
like
and the
full
Bengals.
on, you know what. Like, this was my team, which is funny as a Steelers fan. But I have a lot of money tied up in a few different areas that either
Don't
include
bet, kids.
the Bengals winning the AFC North, Joe Burrow winning the MVP award, or the Bengals winning the Super Bowl. And I am still pretty confident in that, honestly. Why? Because the Bengals have shown that they can turn it around every year that Joe Burrow is healthy, and that's my contingency. What do they have to do to turn it around? They have to stay healthy. Jamar Chase has to stay healthy. T. Higgins has to stay healthy. Chase Brown, another guy who me and Naples were pretty high on, he needs to stay healthy.
Zach
The
Moss
offense.
has looked good.
Yeah,
Who?
Zach Moss has looked good so far.
yeah, he's looked good.
He's
I mean,
looked
they
good.
both played well.
Chase
last
Brown
week.
could
Chase
be a
Brown-
guy, though.
Chase Brown has a lot more explosive ability, like just like that big play, like 80-yard runs, like that he could have. Like
He's a returner, isn't he?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He was at least in previous years.
But all those guys, as long as they stay healthy, I am confident in the Bengals once again to make a push, maybe win the AFC North, because the Ravens have looked a lot better the last 2 weeks. But let's see if it stays that way, because the first 2 weeks, there were some glaring things that showed up that we're not used to seeing by a John Harbaugh coach team. The Steelers, I'm not buying it. Like, if we could talk about the least surprising thing, it would be them getting everybody's hopes up, Yinzer fans going crazy, and then them losing to a Colts team that probably was the first week that I felt confident in them. Funny enough, I feel confident in the Steelers for once, and they let me down. So I still think that the AFC North is open, despite Baltimore turning it on, and despite Pittsburgh's hot start.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. I think I briefly mentioned this earlier, but I wasn't trying to interrupt you. It was you and I both, I think, had the Bengals and the Eagles as our prediction for the Super Bowl this year. I think we actually did in our simulator end up having the Bengals versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl
Yeah,
this
that
year.
sounds right.
So I think we were all high on the Bengals. I definitely don't think that one was just you. So I think that the cold start has been a surprise just in general. But my team, I'm actually going to switch over to the NFC. I'm going to go NFC West. Another team that I know at least we were high on. I'm not sure if you were high on them or not. LA Rams. Yeah, like, caveat before I go into this, the injuries this year for this team have been unbelievable. So first of all, let's go through their receiving options that are out. Cooper Kupp out. He didn't end up on IR. Puka Nacua ended up on IR. So he's out at least 2 or 3 more games total.
And Cooper Kupp was looking real good too.
Yeah. Tyler Higbee out. DeMarcus Robinson questionable. Then move on to their offensive line. On their offensive line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 guys have injury designations. 4 of them are on IR. Then you look on the defensive side of the ball, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players on IR, including John Johnson III, who's a solid player.
Yeah.
Their secondary right now consists of Kobe Durant, and aged-out Davis White, Cameron Curl, and Quentin Lake. Their secondary is a liability. Their secondary is really bad. Their front seven's okay. It's decent. Jared Verse has been good.
Jared Verse has been good.
Jared Verse is probably the front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year right now, if I had to guess. I mean, I haven't seen much out of Dallas Turner personally, as far as like I haven't heard his name, but I would say that those two, and then my guy Byron Murphy is injured right now, so like we're holding out hope that he comes back and sets the world on fire.
Yeah, Terrion Arnold's looked good. I mean, he's had a lot. He's had a few penalties, but he's been good.
He had a lot last night.
All right.
Like
well, to be fair, there was a few of those. Like I was watching the game, like it was like very like.
Oh, yeah.
Why are you calling this? Like it could have, like you could, like they're both hand fighting, and you're like gonna call a shove.
Going off of what you said about defense rookie of the year, Jared Verse is the odds-on favorite right now. I still think it's wide open. The only other guy that really has any movement is Laiatu Latu, the other edge rusher for the Colts. But it's wide open right now. I mean, a DB could still win it. Your guy, Byron Murphy, could still win it. Heck, Peyton Wilson could still win it. So.
And that's the thing. Like at this point last year, the defensive side was still wide open, right? But the offensive side, by week 4, was about wrapped up. If we're being honest, like the way that it worked out with like everybody knew it was gonna be Stroud. Like the odds on
it's just so hard to beat out a quarterback.
Yeah, who was it? Bijan was the only one giving him.
Bijan and Gibbs would have been up there.
There was a receiver that was up there too.
Addison Flat. Yeah, it would have been Puka, and then the 2 first-round running backs.
I just he doesn't.
And
look
defense
like a
was wide open last year.
Defense was literally
because Devin Witherspoon they thought was the favorite, and then a little bit of a shocker on awards night they gave it to Will Anderson.
Yeah.
But 7 sacks. Like he had a better pressure rate, but 7 sacks won it.
Oh, yeah.
Devin Witherspoon, a lot of his momentum, and he's a very good corner, but a lot of his momentum came from an early primetime Monday night game that he had like
6.
Yeah, so
that's really all it is. Like you get hot and the media starts talking about you at the right time, like everything shifts your way. So like
you need a primetime game where you look good and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's him.
Yeah.
Like
the team needs to be relevant and you need to be in the news in the last like 5 weeks playing well.
Yeah.
Like that's how Lamar won it.
Yeah.
Lamar won MVP last year, not being the odds-on favorite, I think, until like the last 2 weeks. Like Lamar, it was all Josh Allen, Dak, Purdy.
Yeah.
Like all the way through the end, and then Lamar beats 3 high-profile teams back to back, including the Niners, where they destroyed them in a night game.
Oh, they crushed them.
And then it was like Lamar's MVP, and it was like, wow, that came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, and all that to say, like it's kind of shaping up the same way this year, where like a rookie quarterback is absolutely running away with it, and then a rookie wide receiver is probably going to end up at second place, and then the defense is going to be wide open until week 16 when somebody finally decides to be the guy.
Yeah.
But looking at the games that the Rams have played, like there's some okay ones where they only lost by 6 points in week 1 to the Lions. So I mean the Lions, based on what we saw on Monday night last night, are a force to be reckoned with. So a 6-point loss to them is not alarming whatsoever. Then you look at week 2, they lost 41-10 in their division to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Like yes, Kyler looked like a revelation in that game. Marvin Harrison had a great game after his week 1 slump, but 41-10 in a divisional game is wild. Then you look at the next week, comeback victory, their only one on the season against the San Francisco 49ers. Again, another divisional game. It just speaks to how unpredictable division games are. Then you look at this past week, they lost 24-18 to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
The
Bears.
extremely struggling Chicago Bears right now. And again, I understand the injuries, but like they need to get these players back. They need to get healthy, which is way easier said than done. Because typically when teams get injured, they continue to get injured. They don't necessarily get healthy mid-season, which is very difficult to do. But I think that this Rams team can still compete.
Oh, yeah.
It's very early in the season to discredit them in a division that they could.
Yeah, the division's open.
Yeah, like we were talking about before the season started, that like they could be the best team in the NFL that doesn't win their division.
Yeah.
Because like the Niners are probably still going to win the division, and then the best team to take second place in the entire NFL could potentially be the Rams. I still think that's true if you get your guys back.
Yeah, I mean the Niners are only 2-2. Like it's not like the Niners are on a hot start right now. So it's like
the Hawks are 3-1 with one loss to the favorite in the NFC.
The Seahawks are 3-1. The Seahawks look really good. I think Todd McDonald's doing a really good job with that team right now.
Yeah, no, they look great, and that's one of the things that like I was talking about this earlier today with somebody. It's like Geno had a really good first year in Seattle. He had a slump last year. He was okay last year. This year, I mean, he looks like he's picking up where he left
And
off.
now
at the end of
JSN's
season one.
involved too.
Jackson Smith and
Yeah.
Jigma looks incredible. DK looks maybe more physical than he's ever looked, which doesn't really make sense.
I think we talked about this. He's a guy who's obviously been a hit. He's been a very good wide receiver. He's one of my 25 top 10 wide receivers. This year he finally looks like he might be that top 10, like legit top 10, not one of the 25 top 10 guys. Just finally living up to that potential.
Yeah.
You know who the best guy on that team though is? Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
That guy
Oh, yeah.
is a
He's been so
game
good.
changer.
Yeah.
Just
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Stud. Okay, so do you guys want to do the last part? We're gonna either gonna do a couple trivia questions or we're gonna do a draft. What do you guys thinking?
I mean,
I'm indifferent.
I don't know. I think draft is more fun, but I think it's been longer since we did trivia.
Yeah, let's do a couple trivias. All right, so first one, Kim. Each NFL team, see if you can name the last wide receiver that had 1,500 receiving yards
In a season.
in a season. Yep.
Steelers. Do you want us to go in any order? Or?
You don't have to go in any order. Just try to guess the year as well. This is all on here.
Oh.
Okay.
Antonio.
Was the Steelers Juju?
No.
Did
it
he
was-
get to 15?
It would have been AB in 2017.
Do you remember how many? This isn't on here, but do you remember how many yards he had that year?
1764.
I was gonna say it was high 17s. He almost had 18, but Julio had 18 that year.
Mm.
That's the fourth highest receiving season ever, and Julio that same year got second.
Doing years is going to be hard.
It is.
Julio for the foul. See, like, that's, I'm going to bounce all over the place probably. Julio also in 2017.
It was actually 2018 because he did it 2 years in a row.
Okay.
So again, most recent. That's the caveat
Okay.
here. So yes, he did in 2017, but he also did in 2018.
All right. I might say screw it to your years thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Just
That's
guess
hard.
players.
Well,
Uh,
Brett
you want, me
was,
to, you want me to name the team and then you can try to name
Yeah,
the
let's
player?
do it that
Okay,
way.
Let's do it. Miami Dolphins,
it's got to be Tyreek.
yeah, last year.
Tyreek. Dallas Cowboys.
Was it CD? Yeah, CD did it last
It
year.
was CD
Yeah.
last year. Detroit Lions.
Amon Ra last year.
Yep. Minnesota Vikings. I'm almost reading these
Jettas.
players' name. I'm almost reading these
Yeah.
players' names as I'm going through here.
Jettas.
Yes, it's Justin Jefferson. I almost said Oakland. Las Vegas Raiders.
Did Tay do it in the last couple?
No, he didn't get 15 with the Raiders. No way, right?
That first year, I think he might have. Tay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
That
2022.
first year,
Yeah.
both years were good, but that first year was still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Green Bay Packers.
Devontae Adams.
It is the LA Rams.
Cup.
Puka.
It's Cooper Cup. Puka
Yeah,
didn't have
the-
that.
Puka didn't get 15 last year?
The quadruple crown.
Yeah.
15's a lot.
15 is a lot. He had
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
like-
think he
he
set
had
the-
like 14 something.
Yeah, he
I'll
was
look it up
really
here, but-
close.
I
All
think Puka set the record
Yeah,
for rookies.
Yeah, he did.
Buffalo Bills.
He broke Jamar Chase's.
Diggs had to have done it.
Correct. Diggs did it in 2020. Saints.
Michael Thomas did it the
Oh,
year he broke
slant
the
boy.
catches.
Yeah.
You already did Atlanta Falcons. Let's do Houston Texans.
Nico did it last year, didn't he?
No.
No? Nico didn't get 15?
I doubt it. Nico's probably around 12, if that.
Oh, you know what? You're probably right.
Hopkins.
Oh, that's Hopkins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hopkins.
Update right now. Puka Nacua has 35 yards on the season, and he is at 1521. So he's just under
Yeah.
1,500 yards last year.
1490.
Just under.
Wow.
Yes. Anyway, back to this. Tampa Bay.
Mike,
Guess what year?
2016, 17.
More recent than that.
Oh, okay. 2018.
Oh, I was along the same lines as him.
It's
I'm like,
18.
okay.
2018.
So before
Was that
20
first year with Tom or no?
No, it was-
That was
No, that was Jameis's 30-30 year, wasn't it?
Oh,
No, it was the
no,
year
I think
before
it was the year
30-30.
before because 2019. Because
To be fair, Mike Evans has gone over 1,000 yards every year in his career. So like, it's
yeah, but I
any of
was
the
thinking it
years.
was the 30-30 year
Yeah.
first.
We already did the Steelers, Jets.
Oh gosh, did
This
Brandon
is
Marshall ever
interesting.
do it?
It is Brandon
Okay.
Marshall.
Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah.
Be more.
I was like, if it's not Brandon Marshall, we
Yeah,
might be going back to
yeah.
Wayne Chebret or
Yeah.
whatever.
Broncos.
DT.
Yep.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Cleveland Browns.
Did Josh Gordon get there?
Yeah, it would have been
Josh
Gordon.
Gordon had a 16, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I think it was
Do
16.
you remember what year it was?
2012.
2013.
13?
Very
2012
close.
was his rookie year.
2012 was his rookie.
The Bears.
Oh gosh, did Marshall ever do it?
Yeah, it's Brandon Marshall.
Okay, I was gonna.
I was gonna guess Allen Robinson.
I was gonna say if it's not Brandon Marshall, I don't even know.
If it wasn't Brandon Marshall, my guess would have been Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh, Alshon Jeffrey.
Because you got to remember, they were both there at
Yeah,
the
but
same time.
1500's a
A-Rob.
lot.
A-Rob was good there, too.
1,500 yards, and the quarterback didn't even have 4,000 passing yards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because it's never happened.
Brandon Marshall was just a 100 catch a season guy. Like it was nuts.
This is an interesting one. The New England Patriots.
Randy Moss,
Mhm.
Oh,
so more recent than Moss.
Which was 2007 when he had his really big season there.
1,500 yards for the Patriots. Edelman
That's
never
a
got
lot.
there.
Did
That's a
Gronk
lot.
get it?
Gronk never got
Welker.
it. It was Wes Welker.
I was gonna
Wesley?
say Gronk. That's
Yeah.
too much. Edelman. That's too much.
2011. New York Giants.
Odell?
Mhm.
Odell.
No,
Odell definitely.
never
Odell
did
had a
it.
16.
I don't think.
Odell never did
No.
it.
Odell never got 15? I thought he had a
Never got
1600.
No, he broke the rookie record, and I think that was his best statistical
Oh,
season of his
okay.
career.
So
So it's gotta be
before Odell.
Flax?
That's a good guess, but no.
No.
Before that or after that?
After. Yeah, after.
Dude.
Maybe
Dude,
around the same
Dude,
time.
the Giants do not have people who catch
I
the
mean,
ball.
I'm just gonna start naming.
Victor
them.
Cruz.
Victor
Oh,
Victor
go
Cruz,
on,
yeah,
go Paul,
Victor
go Paul.
Cruz.
I love Cruz.
Do you guys ever see that clip? Sorry to get distracted. Of I think it was Rob Ryan. No, it was Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
When he'd be like, Who's
For
number
Hard
3?"
Knocks, yeah.
Yeah.
In the preseason.
Yeah, in the preseason.
Yeah. All right. Panthers.
Steve Smith,
Mm-hmm. Colts.
Reggie Wayne.
Reggie Wayne.
Reggie.
All right. This one is interesting. Arizona Cardinals. It's not the first guy you think of. I'll give you that hint. Because
Okay.
I know who you both
It was-
thought of.
well-
he never had 1,500 yards.
DeAndre Hopkins.
No.
That was
no.
gonna be my first guess.
Really? That was gonna
Yeah.
be your first guess?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Because I was thinking
well,
more
because-
recent.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
thinking
okay.
Kyler may
No.
have.
I would have
gone
thought
there.
Fitzgerald
Well, when they
maybe
started-
would get it, like one of the Kurt Warner
You want
years.
the year?
Yeah,
No,
sure.
Anquan Bolden.
Further back.
Oh, it's further back.
You're not gonna know this
David
name.
Boston.
What the heck? Yeah. What the heck?
Hey,
dude?
I know
let's
them
go.
all, dog. I know.
Apparently.
Yeah, he.
What year were you born?
2003.
This
But-
is 2 years before you were born. 2001.
So he is one of the biggest free agent busts in NFL history. He was a tight end, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
He was a tight end or a bigger wide receiver.
Yeah.
He signed a big free agent contract to go to the Chargers, I believe. So that's how I know him because he's thrown out in the biggest free agent bust. Yeah, don't ever doubt my knowledge.
Yeah,
man.
that was good. That was a good pull. All right, Jaguars.
Is it Alan Hearns?
It's not Allen Hurns.
Is Allen Robinson?
No, it's not Allen
Okay.
Robinson.
So it's
It's none of
before
the
that.
Allens.
Well before that.
Well before that.
Keenan McCardle,
Yeah.
Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith.
Okay.
Yep. San Francisco 49ers.
Ayuk,
No,
Debo.
no.
I thought Ayuk got fit. Did he get 14?
Debo. I mean, Ayuk
I
did get
He had
14.
13 last year.
Oh, okay.
He had 13 last year. 13 and change.
So before
Man.
when
There was no one in the Jimmy era.
not Emmanuel Sander. Did Crabtree
Right?
ever get it? Before Crabtree?
Mhm.
Oh gosh.
Bolden there?
Don't overcomplicate it.
Was it
guys.
Bolden?
Don't overcomplicate it.
Jerry
Vernon
Rice.
Davis?
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice.
Thank you.
Really?
Really? So all right, because I was like, ooh, did I skip To too quickly and go right to Rice?
No. Another interesting one. The Chargers.
Wow, you say interesting.
You'll
That
know-
surprised me. Keenan
you'll
didn't
know
get
this-
it.
Vincent Jackson.
No. You'll know this name, but not based on any experience. He's well before any of our age.
Kellen Winslow Sr.
No, but that's a good
Oh.
guess. You want the year he got it in?
Sure.
1965.
Oh God, well then just tell me. I don't.
Lance Allworth.
Lance
Oh,
Allworth.
okay.
I know
That's
him
one of
more as
those-
a
yeah.
Seahawk.
Yeah.
I know the name, but yeah, I don't know.
Tennessee Titans.
AJ Brown? No, he never got it.
No.
Uh,
AJ Brown did have a really good season. I want to say he had 13.
Yeah, but
as
he never
well.
got the targets.
Yeah,
like
he-
he
that's-
was dominant. Like he could have gotten it, but
Yeah.
did Kendall Wright get it on his 100 catch year before Kendall Wright?
Well before.
Well before. We talking Steve McNair time?
Well before.
Well before.
Well before
So
Steve
am I gonna
McNair.
get it?
So we're not
Probably not. It's Charles Hennigan.
Yeah,
Charlie.
that one
never
I
heard.
Charlie Hennigan. He played in 1964.
Yeah,
Never heard of her.
Lance Allworth, I at least.
All right.
Have heard
So
of.
go through this list so far of the teams we haven't named. How many teams can you name that have never had a 1,500-yard wide receiver? There are 1, 2, 3, 6.
Well, we didn't name the Bengals.
The Bengals are on there. That's one.
We did not name
The
the Bills.
Ravens? We didn't name the Ravens.
We did name the Bills. We named Stephon Diggs.
Oh yeah,
What'd you say?
Ravens is
Ravens
right.
are on
Yeah.
there. Two AFC North teams.
Yeah. Well, I just think the Ravens have never been like a aired out kind of team.
Yeah, literally
No.
never.
They've also been around for less than 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
But
That's what I'm thinking, like those younger teams.
like I think the best Ravens wide receiver of all time might be Anquan Bolden.
Mhm.
He spent like 3 years
Steve
with
Smith
him.
was there. He had a good
For
year.
2.
Yeah,
I would
it's
take
crazy.
Bolden over
The
Steve.
the youngest teams on this list have
Texans and the Panthers
Texans.
and Jags.
Yeah, all of them are on this list.
Uh,
So far, you have the two AFC North
I think
Bengals.
who we
Ravens.
didn't name.
AFC West, we named the Broncos. We named the Chiefs. Never got on.
The Chiefs never.
Tyreek never got it.
Mm-hmm.
No. Wow.
We didn't name the Raiders either, right?
We did name the
No, we did name
Raiders.
the
It was
Raiders.
Devontae.
It was
Devontae.
Devontae.
Yeah.
It was one of his two
Yeah,
teams that he
yeah,
did
yeah.
it for.
Seattle?
Seattle is on there. They've
Yeah.
never had a 1,500.
That actually makes sense.
It does, but like you also think of names like Sidney Rice. Like Sidney Rice could have 1,500 receiving
Yeah.
yards. I'm not saying like he had the ability to have done that. Also, who's the old guy? Stickum. Everybody loves him. The Seahawks wide receiver.
Steve Largent?
Yes,
Oh.
thank you, Steve Largent.
Okay, maybe Largent.
Sergeant Largent?
All right, so you guys so far
We have 4
got
of them?
Seattle,
Bengals,
Baltimore,
Ravens.
Bengals.
Sidney Rice's career
Chiefs.
high, her season high in yards with the Seahawks was 748.
Which is solid for a guy.
That is
who's a
half
run
of
blocker.
1,500,
He's a run
dog.
blocker.
That is.
All right,
He had the
There's two
potential.
left. There's two left. They're both in the NFC.
Both in the NFC.
We named the whole South.
We named the East, right?
We
Yeah.
didn't do Eagles.
The Eagles are
Oh,
one of
Eagles.
the people that have never had a
Commies?
15-0 wide receiver. And the
The
Commanders are the other one. So it goes, the teams that have never had it, Seattle, Washington, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Philadelphia. Are teams that have never had a 1,500-yard wide receiver.
Shaden keeps on slinging the rock. Maybe Scary Terry.
Yep. And then this one, this is the other, trivia question that I had. So I'm just going to do top 3 and bottom 3 in this one. The record prior to this past week of the last 100 games of all the franchises in the NFL. Give me top 3, give me bottom 3. So who has the best record in the last 100 games? Who has the worst record in the
Chiefs.
last 100
Chiefs
games?
got to be up there.
Chiefs number 1.
Pats.
76-24.
No, not
No,
Pats.
last 100 games. Okay, never
Correct.
mind.
Yep.
Are the Pats in the bottom 3?
Pats are around the mid.
Okay.
They're almost at 500.
That's
They're
got-
52 and
The
48.
Panthers got to be up there.
The Panthers are second to last.
Yeah. So
Packers.
The Packers are not in the top 3. They're number 5.
Okay. So we got number 1 and
Did the Steelers sneak their way on here?
they
The
win.
Steelers are number 7. They did
Okay.
not sneak their way on, but they are very close to the top 5.
Baltimore's got to be up there.
Baltimore's number 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say they
Buffalo?
win before.
Buffalo is number 2. So you got the top 3.
We got the top 3.
So then,
We have-
and of the bottom 3, you have,
We have
The
second-
Panthers.
The Panthers.
Yeah, we
That's
have the
second to
Panthers.
last.
The Giants, maybe. They do have a playoff year.
The Giants are the 4th worst.
Cardinals,
The Cardinals are the 6th worst.
Commanders,
Commanders are the 7th worst.
Rams.
Broncos.
The Broncos are the 5th worst.
Jeez, we're just like hovering right
You-
now.
Yeah,
You're-
no, that's
you're
we're right
getting the
there.
right
We're right
teams.
there.
But there is a worse. So the
That's
Panthers,
crazy.
the Panthers' record in the last 100 games.
Patriots.
No,
You said
they were in the
Patriots
middle.
there.
Oh, really?
There's still some Brady lingering in these last 100 games.
well-
They're 52.
well,
Well,
and
also
I'm trying
that
to think,
Cam Newton
like-
year, they made it to the playoffs.
I'm trying to think who's been picking
With Mac
top
Jones.
5
So
for the
real
last
quick-
few years.
So you guys said the Panthers already. Their record in the last 100 games is 31 and 69. There's another team that is 31 and 69.
and
same
they're
exact
tied in
record.
last place.
Tied in last place. So technically, but they have the Panthers listed second to last. So
Houston?
it is not Houston.
I was gonna
Houston
say, if you count-
is near the middle, on the
Okay.
lower middle. They're 44, 55, and 1.
I mean, the Raiders have been awful since
Yeah.
that Rich Bisaccia year.
The Raiders are on the lower end of the middle as well. They are right up near the Texans.
That's crazy.
Like there are a lot of teams that I'm thinking about, like the Jets, for instance, that I would like view as middle of the pack, but I would view the other teams that we named like below them in the middle of the pack.
Well, the Jets on there.
The Jets are the third worst.
That's ridiculous.
They
Like,
are-
Well,
Third-
you got to
third-
think about when they had Sam Darnold there when he wasn't playing well. There, like
Exactly.
they
I
won
guess.
and Zach
They're
Wilson.
32 and 68,
Well-
so they are not the bottom team on this list. They're technically tied. They're in second place because they tie at the bottom, which is
Bears?
the Panthers and Bears are actually at 44
Hold
and
on.
56.
Hold on, we can get it.
I mean, I guess you get that one good Mitch Trubisky year.
I know, man.
All right, so it's
The
not.
Browns are basically at the middle, by the way. I know we're not guessing the Browns because they've had a good couple of years, but like you think back to their like 1 in 15, 0 and 16, like
Does that reach the last 100 games though? I don't know. I don't think it does.
I don't know because that was when
That's-
this,
That was
20
That was 16 and 17.
Yes, so I don't think, and we're in 2024
it's
now.
5 years. Yeah, I wouldn't reach because 5
it's like
times
8 years.
17. Yeah.
Yeah, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not either of the Norths. The East, we already got. We
Yeah.
guessed
Well,
everybody
let's think
from
AFC. It's not the AFC North, AFC West. It's not the Chargers, right?
It's not the Chargers.
Okay.
The Chargers
I would
are.
say they've been.
Here's the thing: the Chargers go back and forth, but they also lose all the close games. They're
Yeah.
49 and 51. They're almost
Yeah.
at 500 in the
Yeah.
last 100 games.
Yeah.
And look, if we're going back
We
the
already
last
guessed the
100, then
West.
we even have some Philip Rivers sprinkled in there, maybe. So
Titans.
No, here's your hint: this team,
it's gonna give it away, right?
maybe this team just paid a quarterback top money.
Jags.
The Jags. The Jags. in
We
the
forget
last-
about
I-
Urban Meyer.
I
so
know.
quickly.
I almost guessed the Jags, but then I was like, but they were a playoff team and like won like at least 9 games last year.
The Jags just paid a quarterback like $55 million a year, and they've gone 31 and 69 in their last 100 games. Wow. Isn't that a wild stat?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we'll end on that.
Yeah. Good episode, boys.
Yeah.
This has been the Second Short Podcast. We'll see you next time.